Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this Friday, 7th of November 2025. I hope you are well wherever you are tuning into this from. Today we are going to continue with our study of life and leadership lessons from Surah al-Kahf, based on this book by Professor Dr. Hassan Mohi-ud-Din Qadri. And continuing on from last time on page 104 of the book, we are looking at verses 45 to 49 today. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Draw an example of this worldly life for them. It is like the water we send down from the sky. Then the vegetation of the earth absorbs it to grow. Then it, i.e., the vegetation, becomes dry, broken into pieces, which the winds scatter afterwards. And Allah holds power over everything. Wealth and children are the attractions of worldly life. However, the everlasting righteous deeds are better in reward from your Lord and better in hope. On the day when the mountains move away, and you will see the earth an open plain, and we shall gather them, we shall not leave any of them out. And they will be presented before your Lord in rows. It will be said to them, indeed, you have come to us, as we have created you first time. Rather, you claimed that we would never appoint for you a time for the fulfillment of the promise. The record of deeds will be laid open. Then you will see the evildoers fearful of what is in it. They will say, oh, woe to us! What kind of record is this that does not omit anything, small or big, but numbers them all? And they will find present whatsoever they had done, and your Lord does not deal with anyone unjustly. The power of gratitude. These verses invite us into a luminous realm of reflection, gently unveiling the ephemeral beauty and fleeting shadows of this worldly existence. Like a garden kissed by morning dew, radiant yet temporary, our earthly pursuits flourish briefly, only to fade into memory. These verses whisper a sacred truth. Beneath the shimmering illusion of the material world lies the eternal pulse of divine reality, accessible only through righteous deeds and purified hearts. Here, the Qur'an summons us to awaken from spiritual slumber, urging our souls to seek the lasting treasures hidden beyond the temporal pleasures, guiding us towards a realm where each act of goodness becomes a timeless beacon, illuminating our journey back to the everlasting. The religious perspective, that these verses draw an analogy between the fleeting nature of life and the water that nourishes the earth, highlighting the temporary nature of worldly pursuits. The mention of wealth and children as attractions of the worldly life emphasizes the importance of prioritizing everlasting righteous deeds. The imagery of the Day of Judgment depicts a scene where all beings will be gathered before Allah and the record of their deeds will be presented. The evildoers will face accountability, realizing that their deeds, both small and large, are meticulously recorded without any omission. This underscores the divine justice of Allah. So here, in these verses, as we read previously, about the vegetation of the earth that absorbs water to grow, and then it grows, and then it becomes dry, then it gets broken into pieces, which the winds scatter afterwards. God is using this example that we all see every day within our lives to understand the nature of this worldly life. None of us will be here forever. Nothing we build, nothing we create will last forever. There will be some examples, such as the pyramids of Egypt or the Colosseum in Rome, or some of the like the Red Mosque in Pakistan. Great places that will last for a long period of time, but we don't know how long. And ultimately, even these great monuments are themselves eroding. And though they may remain as a sign for further generations to be able to see what their ancestors had done, even these great monuments themselves are eroding. None of them will last forever. And we don't know how many great monuments have been lost either. Even the Kaaba had to be rebuilt several times. Leadership perspective. From a leadership perspective, the verses encourage a focus on enduring values and actions that have a lasting impact. The comparison of worldly life to vegetation that eventually withers and scatters serves as a metaphor for the impermanence of material pursuits. Leaders are urged to prioritize actions that contribute to a meaningful legacy. The mention of the Day of Judgment serves as a reminder of accountability, emphasizing the importance of ethical leadership and just governance. The idea that every deed, regardless of its size, is accounted for resonates with the principles of transparency and accountability in leadership. In summary, these verses reflect the ephemeral nature of worldly pursuits from a religious perspective and urge us to prioritize enduring righteous deeds. The Day of Judgment is portrayed as a moment of accountability and justice, resonating with both spiritual and leadership principles. The above verses offer several leadership lessons that can be applied in various contexts. And before I list them and go through them, an important point that the author highlights here, and that I just alluded to. All of this life is passing away. Even the monuments will pass away. But as Professor Hassan has highlighted here, leave a lasting legacy. A lasting legacy is something that future generations will remember. Now, as Muslims and as people of Abrahamic faith, we have so many examples of people who came before us who we still remember to this day because they left a lasting legacy. And their impact is indelibly there within our civilization, both European civilizations, also in the Middle East, and many others around the world. The impact of the ideas and legacy of Abraham, of Moses, of Jesus, of Muhammad, and all the other prophets, peace and blessings be upon them all, is tremendous. We still remember their names today. 1,400 years after Muhammad, 2,000 years after Jesus, 5,000 years after Moses, we still remember their names. We still remember their teachings. They left a lasting legacy. Similarly, I think it was Cyrus of the Persians who left a cylinder with human rights on it. We still remember them to this day because their legacy was not only in monuments, it was in teachings. It was in teachings that were beneficial for society. It was in their example that they lived. And they passed that on to their children, on to their children and grandchildren and all their descendants. And people still remember them to this day. It still forms a foundation. And even though people might not agree with everything and time's moved on, but it still forms an important foundation for so many nations around the world that rely upon their teachings. So we should look at these several leadership lessons from these verses that can be applied in various contexts today. 1. Emphasize lasting impact. The religious perspective, the analogy of the fleeting nature of worldly life, encourages leaders to focus on actions and decisions that have lasting significance. Prioritizing ethical and enduring deeds over temporary gains is crucial for a leader's legacy. Leadership perspective. Leaders should prioritize initiatives and strategies that foster long-term success and positive impact of their organizations. This entails in considering the sustainability and ethical implications of their decisions. Sustainability meaning, that this can actually continue. Whatever decisions they make, whatever they build, it's organic, and unlike something that can be eroded or easily collapse, it's something that can continue. Two, prioritize ethical leadership. Religious perspective. The concept of the Day of Judgment underscores the importance of accountability and justice, encouraging leaders to adopt ethical practices and just governance with the understanding that they will be accountable for their actions. And from a leadership perspective, leaders should prioritize ethical behavior, fairness, and transparency in their leadership styles, as this builds trust among team members, stakeholders, and broader community. Three, accountability and transparency. From a religious perspective, the meticulous documentation of deeds, whether minor or significant, without omissions, highlights the importance of accountability. Every action is accounted for, highlighting divine justice. And from a leadership perspective, leaders should establish systems and processes that promote accountability within their organizations and transparent governance, clear communication, and accountability mechanisms that foster a culture of responsibility. Four, understanding the transient nature of challenges. Religious perspective. The analogy of water nurturing the earth and the subsequent withering of vegetation serves as a reminder of the transient nature of challenges. Leaders should approach difficulties with patience, recognizing that challenges, whatever they are temporary. Leadership perspective. Leaders must adopt a resilient mindset and understand that challenges are an integral part of the journey. Navigating difficulties effectively while maintaining focus on long-term goals is crucial for strong leadership. Five, reflection on personal growth. Religious perspective. Acknowledging that individuals will be presented before Allah in the same state as they were initially created fosters self-reflection. Leaders should consistently evaluate their personal and professional growth. And from a leadership perspective, leaders should engage in continuous self-improvement and reflection. This involves seeking feedback, learning from experiences, and adjusting their leadership style to address evolving challenges. These verses unveil a timeless truth. Worldly success, like a lush garden after rain, flourishes for a fleeting moment before withering, scattered by the winds of time. Wealth, power, and influence may shine like the midday sun, but they too will set, leaving only shadows of what they once were. The true measure of greatness lies not in riches or empires, but in deeds that endure beyond the ephemeral world. On the final day, every action, whether whispered in secret or declared in grandeur, will be laid bare, inscribed in the divine record with unerring precision. No privilege will shield, no status will exempt, only the weight of our choices will stand before us. The wise leader is the one who not only builds businesses, but also crafts a legacy of integrity, purpose, and righteousness. Gratitude is the key that unlocks this higher vision, transforming ambition into service and power into responsibility. It reminds us that success lies not in what we possess, but in what we give, not in what we build for ourselves, but in what we leave behind for others. Leading with gratitude aligns our vision with eternity. Leading with gratitude aligns our vision with eternity to plant seeds that will blossom not just in this world, but in the gardens of the hereafter. So let's go through these verses again and explore them for deeper clarity. Verse 45. Draw an example of this worldly life for them. It is like the water we send down from the sky. Then the vegetation of the earth absorbs it to grow. Then it, i.e., the vegetation of the earth absorbs it to grow. Then it, i.e., the vegetation becomes dry, broken into pieces, which the winds scatter afterwards. And Allah holds power over everything. This verse beautifully captures the transient nature of life. Rain and growth symbolize the vitality of youth and prosperity, but soon the once thriving vegetation turns to dust, scattered by wind. It reminds us that life, no matter how lush and colorful, will ultimately fade. The verse ends with the ultimate assertion: Allah alone is in control of beginnings, endings, and everything in between. This is also why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us to take care of our youth and to use it wisely before we become old. It's in a well-known hadith, and it's one of those lessons that it's timeless and it's universal. It doesn't matter even what your beliefs are. That is wisdom, and it's a fact, and it's something that if we mess up our youth, if we don't make the best use of it, whatever we use it for, whether we use it for work, whether we use it for study, whether we use it for personal development in various other ways, but while we have that youth, while we have that energy, that vitality, that good health, to make the best use of it, because it doesn't last forever. For leaders, this verse is a warning against overinvestment in temporary success or outward growth. Organizations, titles, and empires may flourish like rain-fed crops, but without moral substance, they wither. Leaders should focus on sustainable, values-based legacies rather than short-term victories. The image of scattered dust warns against placing too much confidence in achievements that time will erase. Bismillah. And that is something which you'll find many people, whether they're leaders or just successful in whichever career path they take, they tend to get over, like they over celebrate what they've already achieved instead of realizing that in many cases, even their achievements are good fortune of circumstance, of things coming together a certain way, which is itself a blessing of God. And if any of those factors hadn't been there, then they wouldn't have achieved what they achieved. So even claiming ownership of their achievements is itself, it shows a lot of chutzpah, some people would say, a lot of cheek, but people don't think about it like that. People just take ownership. Once they achieve something, they claim it. And they don't realize that that achievement is itself built upon the work of others, built upon the fact that whichever system people are living in that help to facilitate that, their education, their teachers, their employment, any of these, if it wasn't there, and they wouldn't have been able to achieve whatever they have achieved. So we shouldn't be too confident with those achievements. Obviously, celebrate them to a point and appreciate them. Show gratitude. Show gratitude to all those who helped us achieve, and then help others to achieve. So you leave a legacy of achievements and benefits for everyone. Verse 46. Wealth and children are the attractions of the worldly life. However, the everlasting righteous deeds are better in reward with your Lord and better in hope. This verse identifies two of the most alluring attachments in human life: wealth and offspring. But it places them in context. These are not inherently bad, but they are not lasting. What truly endures is the righteous actions that remain, growing in reward and giving hope beyond this world. Al-Baqayat al-Salihat. In leadership, this verse realigns the focus from assets and influence to impact and integrity. A leader's worth isn't sorry. A leader's worth isn't measured by net worth or the size of their team, but by the goodness they nurture, the ethical decisions they make, the legacy of positive change they leave. Visionary leaders understand that people and principles outlast profits and projects. Verse 47. On the day when we shall make the mountains move away, and you will see the earth an open plain, and we shall gather them, we shall not leave any of them out. This verse paints the scene of the day of judgment with all inspiring imagery. Even the most immovable objects, mountains, will vanish, and humanity will be gathered without exception. It demonstrates that no one can hide from divine justice. All will be summoned in the presence of the all-knowing God. This verse offers a deep leadership insight. No position or influence is permanent or immune to scrutiny. The mountains of power and prestige will dissolve, whether they're yours or whether they're someone else's, which is both something which is a caution and a warning if you're successful, and also highlights that there is opportunity no matter how well other companies, other businesses, other business people may be doing at the moment. Look for the niches in the market, look for the opportunities. Because the mountains of power and prestige will dissolve, and every individual, leader or follower will stand accountable. Great leadership demands awareness of this eventual audit and encourages transparency, humility, and ethical clarity in all our dealings. Verse 48. And they will be presented before your Lord in rows. It will be said to them, indeed, you have come to us as we created you the first time. Rather, you claimed that we would never appoint for you a time for the fulfillment of the promise. This verse reinforces human vulnerability on the day of judgment. Stripped of titles, wealth, and all worldly attachments, people will stand before their Lord as they began, bare and dependent. The verse highlights the arrogance of those who doubted the reality of this meeting and now faced with an undeniable truth. This verse dismantles the illusion of invincibility often found in positions of authority. Leaders, no matter how powerful, will ultimately be held accountable without rank or defense. It reminds us to lead with the end in mind, to act not as untouchable authorities, but as humble stewards who will one day answer for every decision and delay. And as those who are following the news will know, certain people that they thought they were unaccountable and immune to these sort of things, they found that they've lost their titles, they've lost their prestige, they've lost their status. This is very real, and it's a confirmation of what Professor Hassan is discussing here. Verse 49, the record of deeds will be laid open. Then you will see the evildoers fearful of what is in it. They will say, oh, woe to us! What kind of record is this that does not omit anything, small or big, but numbers them all? And you will find present whatsoever they had done. And your Lord does not deal with anyone unjustly. This verse unveils the divine justice system, perfectly accurate, detailed, and comprehensive. The sinner's shock shows that many underestimate how closely their deeds are monitored. Every action, major or minor, is written and now confronts them without bias. Allah's justice is flawless, leaving no room for complaints or appeals. Now, Allah may forgive many of these sins and many of the sinners, but it's still accounted for. Allah accounts for everything. And in this is also a lesson for leadership that is very relevant for today. In leadership, this verse emphasizes documentation, accountability, and the importance of seemingly small decisions. Nothing escapes the divine audit trail. And similarly, ethical leadership involves keeping transparent records, recognizing that the tiniest ethical breach can have long-term consequences. A just system, whether divine or human, is built on truth, precision, and fairness. Accountability is incredibly important because how can you trust if there's no accountability? And trust is the basis of so many things that we do, even things that you don't think of. If you go to any shop now, whether online or in person, and seek to order something, let's say a book like this, you go to the shop or you go to an online seller and you order that book, and in return, you send money. You are putting trust in the money, that the money will buy the book. You are putting trust that the seller will send you the book. And it could be anything. I'm just using this as an example. It's built on trust. People forget that it's built on trust because they take it for granted. But almost everything that we take for granted in our society is built on trust. And so accountability must be there, because without accountability, people fall back, they get lazy, they get negligent, they get corrupt. And when they do that, trust breaks down. And when trust breaks down, the entire system, whether it's the economic system, whether it's the legal system, whether it's the government system, it all falls apart because there's no trust there. And then people start to act selfishly in order to what they feel will be self-preservation, instead of working for the good of the whole society. And a society cannot function like that. It starts to fall apart. And this is a very real problem today. Conclusion. This section of Surah al-Kahf reminds us that life's glitter is as brief as the morning dew, shimmering for but a moment, and then it's gone. Wealth, power, and lineage may offer temporary comfort, but they fade before the light of truth and accountability. These verses reframe both spiritual priorities and leadership ethics. What truly counts is what endures. For believers and leaders alike, the Qur'an offers this powerful vision. Live and lead as if every step is recorded, every decision echoes beyond time, and the only legacy that survives is the one written in righteousness. Some very important points there on gratitude and trust and accountability. And I hope you find that useful. And if you find these video podcasts useful and beneficial, please like and subscribe and share with whoever may find them useful. And also, there is a link to my Buy Me a Coffee if you find it within yourself to support that. And the more people who do, this will allow me to continue producing content and invest more of my time and energies into producing great content and increasing what I produce. So please consider doing that. And I wish you all a very good weekend and very blessed weekend. May Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.